Cheers from tourists as the besieged Marriott Hotel is secured and evacuated. The body of a Spanish photographer killed in a crossfire when Americans mistook a U.S. personnel carrier for a hostile presence. Friendly words from some Panamanians.
I really feel, sad as a Panamanian that this had to come, but there was no other way.
You don't know the happiness that I felt when I saw everybody just cheering when those tanks came over.
Optimistic words from the president.
General Noriega is no longer in power. He no longer commands the instruments of government or the forces of repression that he's used for so long to brutalize the Panamanian people.
Many analysts say that Noriega is a lot tougher than the U.S. is giving him credit for, that he has huge bank accounts, that he can maintain a payroll if he wants to, and that this is a man who has proved he is a survivor over the years.
General Noriega is still free, and while he may look like a stock villain out of central casting, some who have worked with him and followed him believe he may still be in a position to cause great trouble for the United States, militarily and politically. Consider first geography. For most Americans, Panama means a canal, or perhaps Panama City. But much of the country is jungle terrain, including the Cherokee province to the north, where Manuel Noriega honed his skills under American supervision more than 2 decades ago. Wall Street Journal reporter Fred Kemp, author of a forthcoming book about Panama.
The irony is, of course, that we taught the general jungle survival in 1967 in that northern territory, in the Cherokee province. He's still, in fact, I know someone who saw him quite recently, and he was wearing a camouflage jacket with a patch on it, 1967 U.S. jungle training. And so he's very proud of that jungle training. We taught him how to handle that.
Such territory is, of course, classically hospitable to guerrilla warfare. It was where U.S. forces trained in the late 1960s to experience Vietnam-style conditions. And according to retired Colonel Charles Stone, who spent 9 years with the Southern Command in Panama, Noriega has long anticipated the possibility of going into resistance.
There's no question in mind that they have contingency plans for such a thing. And by that I mean more than just a plan. I am convinced that they have, in fact, put equipment, military equipment, and supplies into caches in the interior of the country. That would lend itself to a guerrilla type of operation, at least to get started.
But can Noriega count on backing from members of the Panamanian Defense Forces and from the Dignity Battalions now that he is on the run from American troops? Colonel Stone thinks it's a real possibility.
The military will most likely, at least initially, rally to him to protect the sovereignty of their country, to protect the integrity of the military force, which they look upon as the savior of Panama. I mean, that's the propaganda that they've lived under.
What this raises is the possibility that more American bodies will join those of the 4 American soldiers returned to U.S. soil today. The possibility of a lengthy, sustained presence of U.S. forces in Panama, a possibility some American officials were acknowledging today.
I don't think they'll be there months or years, but we don't have timelines. They will probably be there a period of time.
We will keep whatever necessary, the number of forces is necessary there until our military are satisfied and recommend to the president that they be withdrawn. I want them out of there as soon as possible.
And from a Noriega supporter, this promise.
We expect that this will be a long-drawn fight. We don't see this as something that will just everybody gives up and it's over.
That possibility, of course, poses a potential dilemma. Americans like their interventions short and sweet, as with the 1983 Grenada invasion. Protracted, uncertain struggles, as in Vietnam, are different. And the Panamanians, many of whom today seem to welcome the American troops, could change their mind over time.
The longer they stay, the more I think that it will traumatize the people to see military presence. And I think they'll have to stay for some time.
I think we have a tendency not to learn by our mistakes with Noriega. We tend to underplay him as, you know, this guy is a criminal, he is a drug trafficker, and he's an expert on survival. If we think he's going to fold, we have something to learn. That's not his style. His style, when provoked or attacked, is to counter-attack, not to give in. So we're facing more than we want to admit.
It is entirely possible, of course, that Noriega's real goal is not to fight, but to escape Panama and to reunite with some of the money he has allegedly squirreled away. But keep in mind an old military adage, that if a conventional army doesn't win, it loses. And if a guerrilla army doesn't lose, it wins. If Noriega decides to resist, then the longer he remains at large, the more likely that adage is to haunt the United States. I'm Jeff Greenfield for Nightline in New York.
This official